Hello, everyone. My name is François Tanguay. I'm the CEO of the UNO platform, and I'm joined today by Jerome, our CTO.
Hey, everyone.
So today we're here to share some of the announcements. We shipped last week our 5.0 version of the UNO platform. It got updated, obviously, yesterday with the GA version of dotnet 8. And as part of this 5.0 release, we've shipped 5 highly requested features as part of 5.0. The first one, and probably the most exciting one, is our support for C Markup, right? So the idea of you being able to use C# for everything, including all of your UI definition, and basically live a XAML-free life. Consequently, we've also updated our Figma plugin to be able to output to C# Markup as well, as opposed to just being able to output to XAML. For those of you that might not be familiar with our Figma plugin, this is a design-to-code tool that integrates into Figma, allows you to see any design in real time as an UNO app, and then allows you to export pixel perfect all of this design into a UI markup without the labor-intensive process of doing a design handoff and manually code and try to port all of an existing design into UI markup, right? So it's pretty powerful in terms of productivity gains. We've also updated, thanks to the new dotnet 8 constructs on hot reload, our hot reload story. We've updated our MVUX that I'll share in a moment, our MVUX story with new hot reload capabilities. And finally, we've shipped 2 new workshops that take you through the journey of learning everything UNO has to offer from start to finish, and really like concrete examples. I figured like it'd probably be a good idea before we dig like super deep into UNO to take a step back and try to see and explain why we're here in the first place. We created UNO with a vision that's part of the name, like it's called UNO platform. And that's because coming at it from an app builder perspective, we do believe that when you're trying to build in a productive manner, a cross-platform app sitting on top of .NET, you need a set of tools, guidance, and recipes to help you and support you through that process. So there's UI frameworks out there that are available. We believe we can do a lot more and push the envelope of what's available to you. And that's why we have a platform that we want it to be flexible, productive, rich, and gives you everything you need to build beautiful apps in no time at all. So what do we mean by being flexible? We believe that you should be able to create like your apps developing from any operating system, that the dev experience should allow you to work from your favorite IDE, to target all the platforms you want to target where .NET runs, to use your favorite markup, should it be like C# Markup now or XAML, and that's why we created C# Markup to add flexibility to this process. That you might be wanting to leverage some of the existing state management patterns like the MVVM from the community toolkit, or even MVUX that we're now shipping. But in all cases, that all of these options should be opt-in. So it should be extensible, it should be modular, and you should be able to cherry pick whatever you need in the context of that app specifically that you're building. I was talking about C# Markup. Pedro Jesus has an entire deep dive session at dotnet Conf on C# Markup. I strongly encourage you to go see it. But in a nutshell, what we're doing here is we have a source generator-based C# Fluent API offering that basically doesn't try to reinvent the wheel. It maps one-to-one with the underlying object model. So it gives you first-party support for C# Markup. It gives you, if you have third-party component from other vendors that you're bringing into your application, you'll get C# Markup automatically. If you have your own pages and user controls in your app, you'll also get C# Markup. So it's really like hopefully the leading experience into how you could approach coding all of your UIs with C# Markup. And in a moment, Jerome will see what it looks like in action. I've also mentioned in terms of flexibility, being able to use something else than MVVM. So we've pushed out a few months ago MVUX as a state management pattern, right? So not everybody's familiar with it. If you were to look at it, if MVVM had a baby with MVU, they would probably have called it MVUX. So in a sense, it's like getting what's good of view models, right? They're decoupled from the views, they're highly testable, but we hate having to implement init 5 property change I commands, having to deal with threading and dispatchers and all that. So you get here a fully declarative, reactive, fluent API that you can explicitly like specify your intents about your state when it gets updated, and behind the scene will generate everything you need. Kind of like what Community Toolkit is doing with MVVM to implement identify property change and stuff, but in a fully immutable kind of pattern. And again, that's something that Jerome will be able to show you next in action in terms of like what flexibility it brings to the table. On the productivity side, probably the first thing you'll experience in terms of productivity boost with Uno platform is if you're using our templates. If you're looking at like the thousands of combinations that are available to create apps with different .NET framework targets, with different heads that you want to target with or without state management, whether or not you want to use a design system, if you want to use C# or XAML markup, it creates an infinity of options. So with our .NET template that is either through CLI or that is also surfaced in our Visual Studio extension through a wizard, you get to just select everything you need, and it outputs an application ready to use and ready to consume in terms of, and you can focus just on your business logic, basically. Finally, like from a productivity standpoint, we believe like the one thing that keeps you productive while building an app is a hot reload experience that simply works, right? So it's something where it should work in both Visual Studio and or VS Code. It should work regardless of the platforms you're targeting and debugging. It should work if you're deploying to devices or emulators, but most importantly, it should work regardless of what you're updating. So if you're updating XAML or C# markup, if you're updating business logic, if you're updating those XBind expressions or like global resources and colors and data templates, all this should simply work, and you should experience hot reload in action. So it's something you can trust and rely on. Jerome, why don't you like try to show all this together in action?
Definitely. So let's take a look at my screen now. What we're going to be doing in the next few minutes is talk about the Simple Calc workshop, which is a workshop that we've been releasing as part of Uno 5, and I will show you what we can do, what you can do with Uno 5, C# markup, MVUX, hot reload, and all the .NET 8 goodness that was recently released. So let's dive into this. But first, let's take a look quickly at what the wizard looks like. So when you're in Visual Studio, you can create a new project, get to the Uno platform app template. And then when you click the create button, you're going to be presented with a new wizard. That wizard will allow you to get all the combinations that Francois just mentioned. And I'm going to be walking through selecting all the options that I need for the new workshop. So within .NET 8, we're going to be needing all the targets that are available. So let's go for WPF and frame buffer as well. We're going to be using MVUX this time, but you can also use MVVM if you want to in your application. You have the option to do XAML and C# markup. That's what we're going to be using here. For the theming, you have a fluent material. Let's go for material, and we're going to be using a theme service, which is a feature that we're providing as part of our toolkit to allow you to switch between themes, so light and dark theme, and follow up with the system. No extensions for this specific sample, and then we're going to be adding another feature with the toolkit with additional pieces like being able to use the safe area for mobile device and things like that. And then once you're done, you can click the create button. It will create you a new project with an empty content that you can start with and start developing your app. So in the interest of time, I've set up my application already with the beginnings of the workshop for the calculator, the simple calculator. And what I'm going to do is start the application right now with, actually I started a little bit too fast. Let me start with the debugger. We're going to be starting the application, and we're going to take a look at it on the side, and we're going to be making modifications to the app with the XAML markup that you're seeing here. So what we can see here is the basic sample page that will basically show a small application here with just a hello world for .conf in the middle, and we can change the content immediately, and it will just show up immediately. So you can see I just press save, and because we have automatic save on hot reload on save, the content is automatically available directly in the app. So in the XAML, in the C Markup, you can see all the things that you had with the one-to-one mapping. So this is the exact same APIs that you can see in the XAML APIs in XAML APIs, WinUI API in XAML, but this time written in a fluent way. So you can set your vertical alignment, set your children, set your text blocks, and things like that. So we're going to dive into a little bit more into the different pieces and features that C Markup is providing. So let me comment this part out, and I'm going to be adding a skeleton layout, and we're going to go through all of that. So let me comment this and save. You're going to see that I have some content that appears here. So I have my content with a default background, a data content that's default, and it's some custom data context just for showing the demo and how it works out when you're developing your own app. And then you can see that the data context is typed. So I can have content that's provided directly to some of the header, output, and keypad that we're going to be adding later on. We can see that you can create your grids, set row definitions with the syntax that you can find in the XAML in the same way. You can also set themes and resources directly from in a static way, so you can discover the names of the resources this way. So let's go ahead and change this with the keypad, for instance. So I'm going to be commenting out that method, and let's go to take a look at the keypad button. So this method here is pretty much like a user control. So you could get, when you're in XAML, you have to create a separate user control, separate page, and then you have to add your content directly in another page, add namespaces and things like that. In C# Markup, you just create a new method, and then you're going to be recalling that method multiple times if you need to make multiple buttons for an application. So let me uncomment the rest, and then we can make additional modifications, and I'm going to show you what I mean by this. So if I save, you'll see that the keypad appears here, and it's live. I haven't changed anything. And if I want to say, let's say, make the font size of the button a little bit bigger, if I change this and save, you can see that the buttons are way bigger now. So they clipped because of the content, but you get the idea. Now that method is being called by 12 other methods that are in the keypad, for which we have defined a grid and spacing and column definition and things like that. And then we call the keypad button multiple times to get to what we're seeing here. One important part about the buttons is that you have bindings with commands and command parameters. So in here, we've defined in our temporary data context command that you can bind to each individual button. And then we're going to take a look at an updated model, a view model, so that we get the buttons working. So let's finish the UI. So I'm going to be finishing those two parts that were a placeholder at the top. And let's take a look at this. So we have now a button that will change the theme, and we also have a 0 because our data context is not set yet. And if I click on the button, nothing happens. Now, the important part here is that we're going to go to a main model now. I'm going to be uncommenting the view model, and you can see, as Francois mentioned, there's nothing here. There's no notify property change. There's nothing. Just state that are provided by MVUX and UNO reactive, where you can set your state with the calculator, and the calculator here is a fully immutable calculator, so it's a record. Everything's in it, and when you input something in a key, then you get a new calculator instance that's been modified and then rebound automatically to the UI. That's pretty important because that means that your state's not modified, but you don't have to deal with all that. You're going back and forth with the UI thread and things like that. So that's where it's quite interesting. And you can see also that there's the input command, which is just a simple method that's automatically converted to an I command directly in the UI, and you don't have to do anything. But the only thing you actually have to do when you have a model like this is to bind it to the UI. And to do this, we go back to our main constructor here. We're going to change the temp data context that was there just to begin the application and convert this to a bindable main model. So basically, by convention, we just add bindable in front of the name of the model. And when we're done, the UI reloads, and then our application will react accordingly. So that's pretty cool. It's just you don't have anything to do. Our commands are bound automatically, and you can go even inside the input command there, and you press a breakpoint, and that's the cool new things about all the new features of .NET for hot reload. You can get from start to finish without mostly restarting the app, and it's pretty awesome to see all of this working with what the Rothen engineer and .NET engineer has been able to do. And you can see here that I have my input key 9 that's showing up. And finally, our button at the top is not working. So let's make that working. And for that, we can change the constructor to make a constructor that's a bit more complicated. And you can see that we're binding the isDark state here, which is directly associated to the toggle button that's at the top. And we're going to change the model here so that it uses an extension that's provided by the toolkit, which is called a get theme service here. And when I save both, you're going to see that the UI is going to be refreshing itself. And then when I click a few times, then you're going to get your UI is going to be updated. So without restarting the app, without changing anything, just pressing save every time making changes, my app is getting updated quickly. So that's the experience that we're offering to you as part of Uno platform, starting from Uno 5 and with .NET 8. It's even more awesome. So that's it for this demo. Now back to you, Francois.
Thanks, Jerome. Sometimes it almost feels like magical, right? Even though we're in it day in, day out. In my book, it's the closest we can get to a Flutter-like experience that uses like C Markup, MVUX, hot reload altogether, while remaining in the .NET ecosystem. I've mentioned flexible and productive so far in terms of qualities and pillars on top of which we're building. I think rich is also super important, right? As a friendly reminder, all Uno apps are native apps. Therefore, you get all the richness coming from the underlying operating system and toolkit. For example, on mobile, you would get accessibility, you would get password management and your text inputs by default. You would get IME support out of the box. But you're also getting at the platform level hundreds and hundreds of UI and non-UI APIs that are readily available. But we're also, as part of Uno, also shipping some extensions for the more, I'll say, complex scenarios, right? Stuff like authentication, stuff like navigation. And there's a session that Nick Randolph is doing that's also going deep dive into extensions specifically because it deserves its own workshop probably. So I also there strongly encourage you to go see it in action. Here, like controls, just to give you a sense of the breadth of all the controls that are available as part of Uno. Same thing, you can also leverage all of the community toolkit controls. Things like data grid, expanders, all controls that are in there as part of the WinUI first-party controls that can be surfaced and used by the Uno apps using the community toolkit. There's also a great session on the community toolkit where it's section on the Windows community toolkit where Michael Lama shares like how they're able to target Uno as part of their normal build process. So they're targeting both UWP and WinUI and Uno directly, and also how they're using internally at Microsoft Uno for their own labs sandbox in order to experiment with the new controls. We're also on the Uno side shipping our own toolkit for additional controls, so things like navigation bar, tab bar, like more advanced UX scenarios, things like shadows containers as well, so you can get additional experiences. And one of my favorites is everything non-UI API, right? So in a cross-platform manner, you still need to be able to deal with file storage, with network information, with all the sensors, especially on devices. So all these things are available across all platforms as non-UI APIs. And finally, and probably most importantly, is the rich ecosystem of third-party component vendors. You get some of them either open source or paid that are available across all platforms that Uno support, primarily because they're Skia-based. So, and we have Skia native support in Uno platform, but some of them that are targeting MAUI specifically can be lit up now with our most recent MAUI embedding release that we've done recently. Finally, on the beautiful side, even though like apps are native, we believe that those native apps should look and behave the same across all platforms. It means that they should be pixel perfect and look exactly the same regardless of the device form factor or operating system that you're targeting. And that's why we're also enabling that pixel perfection through some in-box design systems that we're shipping, like Fluent support, like Material M3 support. And you're able to customize, obviously, and tailor those design systems to your specific needs with color palette overrides, with lightweight styling. And you're able to get that pixel perfect UI code by using what I mentioned in the beginning as our integration with Figma, where like in a couple of clicks, you'll be able to get from complex designs delivered maybe by your designer into like fully functional code right away. So Jerome, maybe you can show this in action as well.
Yes, definitely. So there's quite a bit to cover here, and I'm going to be starting with the dotnet MAUI embedding, and that's a pretty cool feature that allows to embed your controls. And if you're starting with your app using the Uno Platform Template Wizard in the features, you're going to find the dotnet MAUI embedding option that will set you up with a new project. So I've taken a sample that we have in our Uno sample repository that demos some of our supported controls from Syncfusion, for instance. This one you can find in that repo and start by yourself. And what you can see here when you're creating an application that has that option for dotnet MAUI checked in, we have a separate control that is basically a MAUI app that's integrated into another MAUI and another Uno platform app. And what that will do is that you can see that in that Uno platform app, you're going to have MAUI controls like virtual stack layout, content view, and others that are different from the APIs that are coming from WinUI. And what that means is that when I start this application, we're going to get the ability to see content like this one. So for instance, you can see that there are also, I forgot about this. There's the app builder extension. So this is a MAUI, MAUI controls with adding fonts and configuring Syncfusion and things like that. So this is pretty much the same thing that you can find in a standard app. And you can see that in the main page here, we're going to find a MAUI host, which is the way for Uno applications to use MAUI controls that are embedded into an application that runs on every target that MAUI supports. So, for instance, I can use the donut center elevation, which is a circular chart. So if I search at the top, you can see that it's coming from that specific sample that comes from circular chart here. And let's actually take a look a bit at that application. So for instance, that center elevation control, that is a navigation view from Uno and WinUI, and this is the section where the MAUI control is embedded. So it runs on iOS and Android, and there are cool controls like the neomorphism UI that shows things like the Android, those bars that are animated, or radial charts or radial chart bars. So that's the kind of features that are quite interesting, and there are many other controls that are supported, as you could see in the slide that Francis showed with other vendors that are providing an amazing breadth of controls. So that's pretty awesome, and it's pretty easy to use. Just use the MAUI host, put your control there. It can be your own control as well. It doesn't need to be something that comes from outside. You get a sample here from the embedded control, but you can use your own control. It could be a migration scenario, or it can be an integration scenario for any kind of reason. So that's pretty cool as a scenario. So that's the first part. The second part is I want to guide you through the Figma integration, and that's pretty nice. So this is and I'm a developer, so I'm not super used to everything that's design oriented. But the idea here is that I can take the layout that's been defined in Figma, and by using a plugin that we're providing, which is the Uno Platform plugin that I can load using the right click here, I'm able to take what's selected here, preview it inside of the plugin as an interactive view. You can see I can click things around and view what that is, and I can convert it to XAML or C#. That's a pretty cool thing. And I can take that XAML, for instance, export it, then go into an app like this one, for instance. And if I start this application here on the side, you can see it's building. I'm going to be able to modify that application and take the content that's coming from Figma and just paste it in, and we're going to be able to see the application running directly. So to see that it's actually something that works directly, I can say, I can wait a little bit for the hot reload to start up, and once hot reload is started, when I save the file, I'm going to get an updated version here. And now if I can replace all of this by what's coming from Figma, I'm going to get a newer version of the app containing everything that was coming from the Figma plugin. And the cool thing is that I can even modify the UI here directly. So using hot reload, and I haven't restarted the app. And this is a WebAssembly app, by the way. I can change, for instance, the dark color, and that's the color override palette that's coming from material. And I can change this, for instance, I don't like that color, for instance, let's put red. It's nice red. So I save, and then I got the new UI updated. So that's pretty nice. And you can change all of this very quickly in your app and get a lot faster with hot reload, and from what your designers have created down to an application that's actually running with a lot of other features that are coming from the Figma plugin. So I hope you enjoyed that one. It's a pretty interesting demo. And that's it. Back to Francois.
Thanks, Jerome. That's probably why you don't see us streaming, replicating UIs with the Ono platform, right? It would it'd make for a short stream, like a 5-second stream with 2 or 3 button clicks.
There you go.
So speaking of which, like we've open sourced Uno right over 5 years ago, and the primary reason we did it in the first place was to create a rich ecosystem around us, right? And then we've been blessed with having over 300 contributors so far contribute to the platform. We've had like 23 MVPs, which probably amongst the largest number of MVPs on any open source project. And like it's a testament, we believe, to the importance of the problem we're trying to solve. We've seen increases in all of our downloads, like we've reached over 60 million downloads of all of our packages combined together. We were seeing upticks in our extensions downloads for Visual Studio and VS Code, plus our Figma plugin as well. So it's been an amazing adventure. And like coming at it from an app builder standpoint, building apps day in, day out, and fooding what we're pushing out, I think it gives us the confidence that we're really delivering on the idea of being the most like productive solution to build cross-platform apps on top of .NET, right? So I strongly encourage you to go to platform.uno website, give it a try, take our workshops for a spin, provide feedback. We have an amazing community online across all of our channels with GitHub, Twitter, and Discord. So please come say hi and provide all the feedback you can.
It's
Hey there, friend.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
I love seeing all the updates for the Ono platform and seeing the growth of third-party frameworks that aren't built by Microsoft, tools and things that are so rich, so engaging, and folks can be successful with. It's really great to see how your group has progressed and all the great features. Folks are really going on about how much that hot reload is just impressive. Really, really nice. I want to make sure we come back to a couple questions that folks have asked here. One or two folks have said, where's the decision point between choosing MAUI versus Uno?
That's a great question. Like most people coming to Uno platform, like the idea of being able to target additional platforms. So like being able from their single code base to do both native on mobile desktop, but also on web and Linux. So that's one of the primary reasons. And especially if they have a native, like rich desktop environment background as opposed to like a web background, for example, right? So that's one of the main reasons.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, thank you so much, fellas. It was great having you here. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your .NET Conf. And of course, this session's recorded. Folks will be able to catch it later. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. Always
Thanks, Jeff.